On an international topic, why is it that America, with the largest military in the world, is not winning against the Caliphate?
It's pretty obvious that even with overwhelming military superiority, we are obviously not winning against ISIL, ISIS, or the Caliphate, whatever you choose to call them. I think the basis of this is very poor military strategy and an executive unwilling to make hard decisions. It would be my assumption that Obama, having spent his formative years in a madrasa getting educated, not only didn't have any American history education, but the madrasas are funded by the Wahhabi sect of Sunni Islam, which are the radical supporters of the Caliphate, ISIL, or ISIS, or whatever you call them. It goes without saying that our military and our executives do not understand the Caliphate, what it stands for, how it functions, and what its causes for terrorism are. Our military does not understand fourth-generation war. I'm sorry to have to say that, but it is true. World War II was the last, well, in Korea, were the last third-generation wars. Third-generation wars are wars with defined territories. The soldiers or troops wear uniforms to identify them. Fourth generation war has no lines of demarcation. It's based for a large branch on terrorism, and there are no uniforms defining who the participants are. I would suggest that it would be a good idea for our military to study from the 9th to the 14th century the Shia assassins. The assassins pretty much controlled Middle East politics and power from the 9th to the 14th century. They did it through terrorism. It was a period of 400 years. They were extremely effective. They blackmailed virtually every political leader, king in the world, both Islamic as well as Christian. They should study the Crusades and Salah al-Din, which we call Saladin, of the Ayyubid dynasty from 1160 to 1193, because it would give them insight into how Islam functions, how they think. It is a mistaken idea in the West to think of Islam as merely a religion. There are 5 pillars of Islam. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. Prayer is the basic feature called salat. Charity in free will giving is demanded and required. Fasts are required. And a Hajj once in your lifetime to Mecca is required. Islam is in fact not simply a religion. Islam is a social system, a way of life, a way of government. It controls dietary law, economics, and politics. What our leadership makes a massive mistake by believing Islam to simply be a religion. It is also a massive mistake to try to apply Western government, thought, democracy, republics, and confederations to the Middle East, and to try to convert Islamic nations that have functioned in this manner for 1,500 years into a system compatible with Western political thought. It's simply not possible. It's not going to do it. It's not going to work. A good example of that is that the Caliphate now has in the neighborhood of 30,000 Western military participants. In other words, these are people that were brought up or lived in Western nations, America, Europe, and have returned to the Middle East and have joined the Caliphate in their war to reconstitute the Caliphate that had originally been set up by Muhammad in the year 600. The assumption that 70 virgins in an afterlife have something to do with people joining this government is ridiculous. It has nothing to do with it. The Caliphate operates a fourth-generation military. This form of warfare, as I said before, has no lines of demarcation, has no uniforms, is in the field impossible to identify. If you move third-generation troops, which is what we do, into a Caliphate-controlled town, there is absolutely no way for our military to be able to define a nonviolent citizen from a Caliphate soldier. You can't do it. So we wind up killing the wrong people, which raises more animosity toward us. It's counterproductive. This leads us to the West. How are we to combat this? Our religious leaders have shown such abject cowardice in combating these radical Islamists. And I do want to make clear that not all members of Islam are like this. In my experiences in the Middle East, I think in a dozen trips, I met maybe 5 people that were of this ilk. Most Islamists do not go along nor like this system. It is wholly a Sunni system. It is Sunni Wahhabi supported, as was the 9/11 attack. Almost all of the people who perpetrated this act were Sunni Wahhabis. I think in order to win against this system, which is a political and social belief system, the only way we can win is to provide a better, more sensible, and acceptable alternative to the Wahhabi Sunnis. I happen to think that that's Christianity. If we have religious leaders that show the courage of their supposed convictions, that would be a winning possibility.